Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. Really good to have you all back again, and very happy to have you back as well, Caleb. And I'm happy that you've had a little bit of sleep lately. I know that it's been a long time coming, so welcome back, and welcome to all the usual suspects in the chat room. Fabulous to have you guys here as well. And wow, I must say we've been given some amazing treats here from you, Caleb, in terms of the information you're sharing with us. But yeah, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I have to go to town today, so I'm a little stressed about that, but I think I'll make it okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. You definitely will. But before we carry on any further, do you want to maybe just open for us in prayer, please?
Sure. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for summer that's approaching. Thank you for life and love. Thank you for faith and health. Thank you that this battle is yours and not mine. Thank you for victory. I ask you for more truth, more knowledge, more understanding, and protection in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about conjuration, part 2 of your Arcane series, and that is conjuration, which is a fascinating topic in itself. But before we maybe go into it, could you maybe explain to the viewers, give us more of an understanding what conjuration actually is, just broadly, if you can just explain it broadly to us.
Well, it's very complicated, like everything else in the subject matter. All these magics tie together. You don't just use just one, like, here's the letter A. We're going to do A. You don't do that. You don't do it that way. It's learned over a period of time and by aptitude, I guess. So the waters are very muddied when it comes to these things, but conjuration is something that will help you to achieve the goal you set forth to achieve.
I think what's super interesting, and I know you and I had a conversation off air about this, which, and it's like what you're saying. It's not just, okay, class, today we're doing A, tomorrow we're doing B, Wednesday we're doing C. It's not like that. And it's like what you were saying, people, the mages, or, you know, that's, I guess, the mages, maybe wizards, I'm not sure. I know mages encompassing a lot more than a wizard. But there has to be an aptitude. You've got to be born with an aptitude to do this, right? And it's like you explained to me, it's like, you know, going back to when you were a little kiddywinkle, 5 years old, and you were in the GATE program. That's why they were watching you. So it's like, it's not just one magic that you learn. It's the combination of them all, because they all work together. That's why not everyone can do it. But you would need to have, it's like having the 8 legs of the spider or the 8 legs of the octopus with like 10 fingers on each leg, all working together and maintaining that balance, right? Is there any better way you can maybe explain that?
That sums it up pretty much.
Yeah. So, because I want to just, you know, make it clear to the viewers as well, because I'm sure some of you will also, a kiddywinkle, yeah. Some of you will also maybe question this. It's not like, what is the first magic, 1, 2, 3, and then at the end all 10 or 13 join together. No, it's knowing already what they are, working with them and having the aptitude for all of them. Some of them, I think you don't even learn. It's just something that's natural. It's a natural thing. It's a natural gift you have. And this is why these creatures of the night will absolutely exploit. They look for people like you that have these natural gifts, and then they exploit them and they weaponize them. Is that
It's
right?
like having a baby. Baby has everything it needs from the start, but it takes 18 years to grow it. See its potential. Same concept.
Yeah. Right. So help us explain why you would use conjuration. Now, conjuration or conjuring is like conjuring something up, right? It's manifestation is from God. We understand that the dark brethren cannot create. They emulate, or they piggyback on, or they steal, or whatever. Yeah. So when we are naturally manifesting things in our life, right, that's a God-given gift. So when we work with God, we are able to manifest beauty. We're able to manifest nice things in our life, right? Conjuration would kind of be the dark side of manifestation. Am I correct when I say that?
No.
Okay, well, help me explain that, or help me understand that then, please. Manifestation versus conjuration. How would you explain the difference between the two?
Intention.
Right. So conjuration is more of a selfish thing then. It's for, everything is for self-gain.
Correct.
Okay. So you conjure up an apple.
If not self-gain, then something evil.
Explain.
It's never good. Might be good for you, but not for everybody around you.
Right. Okay. So let's say I'm hungry and I conjure up an apple. Is that possible?
It's possible.
But what's the issue with it?
The source it comes from is the issue. You don't know where it came from, or what's attached to it, or what it's going to do to you.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say then is that you have to know, thank you, Lisa, you have to know where you're conjuring from or who you're conjuring from.
Yes. Yeah. You have to at least be on par with them power-wise.
Okay, so I think that's a good place to help me understand as well, and I'm sure quite a few people out there as well. So when you're looking at conjuring things up, firstly, it's, as you say, it's never coming from a pure source. It's always coming from the dodgy ones, right? And you've got to trade. It's more like a trade-off. And also, because we've understood now that Earth is not just Earth here, there are so many different planes to where different creatures and different beings exist, right? And they don't always have your best interest at heart. So although they're very good with stuff like that, it doesn't mean it's good for you or for those around you. So it's really a selfish thing. Again, am I on the right track here?
To really simplify it, think of it in terms of manifesting your grocery list, which is like a written list, and having the means to buy it and going and buy it legitimately. It was your manifestation of your groceries, as opposed to, I'm going to go down to the local market and shoplift, conjure up my own food. That's the difference.
Right. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. It really does make a lot of sense. Okay, so it's like having money you've earned from working or earning in a legitimate way, and then paying your bills or paying for your groceries, as opposed to having money that you've stolen and in that way paying for what you want or whatever it might be, or dealing, making deals, right? So who would these creatures be, or who would these beings be? Give us an example of who you would conjure from. What type of entities?
Refer back to the orbital again. There's an example stated there. They put themselves forward as a bright, shiny penny. Look at me, look what I have, look what I can do. Those are good examples of who you're dealing with.
How do you get to know these people or these creatures? Because again, I mean, we understand this is not just a 1, 2, 3, step 1, 2, 3. This is all steps at the same time. So how would you know who to conjure from?
It's because they know you. They come to you.
How do they know you?
Well, they've only followed you since before your birth.
Okay. So again, this is really, it's like being watched, and not just being watched by your handlers in the system, but by off-worldly creatures as well, that have a desire to work with you because they understand your power. Yeah?
Simply put, yes.
Wow. So what type of things, I mean, give us examples of things that one can conjure up, and for what reasons you would want to conjure things.
Well, it's entirely situational, but elementals, weapons, portals, light. Like you're in a dark cave, you need a light. Sky's the limit. It depends on what kind of price you're willing to pay.
Okay, you said elementals. Why would I want to conjure up an elemental? And an elemental is a being, right, from another dimension.
Instead of you walking through a bed of coals, send the elemental instead.
Now, what's the price you'd have to pay for that? Because there's always a trade-off.
You have your own personal power. If you don't have enough, you have to have some kind of soul magic. Soul gems.
The soul magic. Okay, so soul gems, and if you can just maybe talk us through that again. The soul gems would be people's souls that you've stolen.
Stolen souls, simply put.
And now we go back to what happens, prisons or psych wards and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Wow. So those would be kept in some type of a gem, and you would trade that for a elemental or some form of weapons.
Not trade. Empower.
Right. Wow. So you wouldn't really be, oftentimes then you would, if you stealing someone's soul and containing it in some type of a gem, it's often not for you to use personally, but you would then use it to trade for something that you needed or wanted. But if you did need the power, in other words, if you did need that, call it a battery charge, you could use it for your own personal gain. Yeah.
You could, yes.
Wow. Just a question on that here. If you die in your body, if you die in body, is your soul still in the gem?
Some of it does, kind of like the ring in a bathtub after you bathe.
What does that mean? Expand on that, please.
Get really, really, really filthy and soak in a tub for about 4 hours. Leaves a ring. Same
so
concept.
So there's remnants of it left over.
Yes.
Another question, yeah, Jean-Luc. Brother Caleb, God bless you in Jesus' mighty name. Question: if I begin manifesting in the law of assumption, does Jesus agree?
I'm not giving an answer. A lot of gimmies or gotchas.
Okay. Okay, so I want to just see if I've just written. Okay, so basically, the difference between manifestation and conjuration is the intention. The intention you have behind what you're choosing, right? I mean, you could, if you look at, let's say, normie manifestation, you work at aligning yourself with God, and in that way, you draw to you the things you need. So you don't force it, you don't steal it, you don't kill for it, you don't whatever. It's just something, your frequency is of that nature that you're going to attract these things to you. But you don't, you aren't
It's more like this. You have to know who God is first and what he wants for you. He doesn't want you to be full of cancer. He doesn't want you to be poor. He doesn't want you to be broken. He doesn't want you to be hurt. So you trust his power. His wealth is his power. He owns all of it. So you can manifest according to his will. How do you know it's his will? Does he want you to have 10 new jet planes and $50 million? Probably not. He wants you to be healthy and happy and whole. And to have his joy as your life. That's what he wants from you. To be a free thinking, free a free being that chooses him, not being forced. You're not a robot. The other side wants you to be a robot. They want you to be indebted to them for what you get out of them. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's all service to self, right? All of it is service to self. Right. Okay. So let's say, and I want to just use an example. You have a few soul gems with some juicy souls in there that you can trade. And you need money, you need power, you need possession of something. So would it be okay? Obviously, it would be in the material realm that you can get it, right? So it will be conjured up. If you want a gun or guns, it will come to you in the material form, for example, right? Or am I correct in saying that? Okay.
Let's use money as an example.
Sorry?
Use money as an example.
Yeah. Okay.
Say I need 50 grand. So I conjure 50 grand. We're making some kind of deal with something somewhere. Well, they'll give it to me. Not only am I indebted to them for more soul power, I have to use that money in one day. One single day.
Why is that?
That's their condition.
So what about if you needed guns to start a war?
You get guns.
But you can't be using that in one single day. So that would there then be terms to, let's say, use it over X amount of time, and it's going to be a monthly cost?
Use the principles of how the world works. You don't just get a bunch of guns. You have to have money to buy the guns first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wow. Is it usually soul gems you have to trade with?
Doesn't always have to be that one thing.
What are the other types of things you can trade with?
You name it.
I have this, I want that. Yeah, okay, so it's like a trade, it's like a barter. So what does that do to you, the person individually, let's say the person that is trading? I mean, is there any cost to you if you're trading in this way?
Of course. Huge price to pay eventually.
Can you be more specific on what the price to pay would be?
It could be anything: physical, spiritual, mental. You have to be really, really, really paying attention to what's happening, because they can trick you and overpower you really easily.
And what happens if they trick you?
Take over on you.
And then?
Then what do you expect after that?
I don't know. I'm trying to just see what would usually be
if something takes over on you and makes you a slave, what happens to you?
So you become a slave to the system.
Not the system, to that spirit. The system has little to do with any of this.
Right. Wow. And how do you get out of being a slave to that spirit? Is there a way out?
No, not usually. The guard will set you free, or you die in there.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense that you would need to be a little bit smarter than whoever you're trading with, because there's no ethics there, I would imagine, right?
Or better yet, don't trade with them.
Yeah. Thank you, Joanne. Appreciate you. Yeah, Linda says forever in their debt. That's true. Colleen saying there's no rebuking that stuff away through God. Yeah, well, how would you, let's say you get to the point where you can rebuke that. Does it just take one rebuking, or is it usually a couple of rebuking? Let's say you get to the point where you can set yourself free. What would be the usual way, or the best way, rather, to do it?
Well, it's a prayer. It took me about 10 years.
Right.
Wasn't overnight.
So what you're saying is you became a slave. So what you're saying is you became a slave to them as well, certain spirits.
Oh, powerful ones, yes. You said you're always making a deal and you're always paying a price. Always.
I would imagine that this becomes like a drug, almost, like, right? It's an addiction. I would imagine to be to have these kind of powers, because they would always want it, like a drug. A drug, you might think it's like I remember a few years ago reading an article in a newspaper from an ex-drug addict, and he said the first line of whatever it was, cocaine or whatever it was he was snorting, is 1,000 too much, and 1,000 too many is never enough.
Right.
So the more you're doing this, the more you want to. Is that right? So it becomes like an addiction.
Well, it's power, so yeah.
Yeah. So you're seeking that power all the time.
When they make you powerless when you're young, you're going to seek it when you get older.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, question here. I want to just see. So the bloodline in charge of money can trick you and get the power that was meant for you. Good question.
Yes, they can.
And that they can do that, obviously, if you are not in your own power. In other words, if you've taken your eye off the ball, right?
They can, and they already have to most people.
Yeah. Wow.
Introduce you to the slavery of the mercantile system. That is the system you were talking about.
Yeah.
Force you to pay taxes.
Sorry?
Force you to pay taxes and all that.
So these people or these creatures or these entities you make deals with, are they in the physical realm like humans or in bodies, or are they dead? Sorry?
They can be. The powerful ones are the Rephaim or the fallen angels or the Archons. I don't call them demons. That's not what they are.
So talk to us about, I mean, something you said earlier on was in order to be able to deal or to have the aptitude, part of having the aptitude to be able to do this type of stuff is being completely emotionally balanced.
Correct.
So what does that exactly mean? I mean, do you go neutral in your emotions? And I mean, if you know, how does that actually work? So can you be happy? Can you be sad? Can you be angry? Can you be frustrated? Can you be emotional? What does it mean in this system or when you're doing this type of stuff to be emotionally balanced?
Calm, cool, collected. Not extreme.
So what does one do to keep yourself cool, calm, and collected? Because I would imagine it's not always that easy to be cool, calm, and collected in these situations.
You have to be centered and stay centered.
And how do you keep yourself centered?
You have to choose to be that way.
Right.
I hate to call it a Zen state. That's kind of like that, almost exactly like that.
Because one of the reasons I'm asking you that is because I would imagine that you would be taught skills along the way to keep yourself in a state that, because it's exactly that. When we're looking back, you know, when we go back to talking about this stuff, you know, when we always talk about faith over fear, we talk about them having more faith usually than what the average person does. They know exactly, and they've got so much faith, which is why they can get what they want, basically. So
let me address something. It came up that I was only a 25th degree Mason. How is that possible that I know all this? Well, it does not depend on the degree that you get through some system thing. It depends on your aptitude and your willingness to learn. And to be balanced, they're looking for people like you. They're looking for the ones that don't break, don't get angry, they're not overly sexualized, they're not super emotional, they're not always depressed. They're looking for you specifically so that you can lead. You can become leadership, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you would need to have leadership capabilities. And again, I would imagine that would be something they would have picked up from you at a very young age when they were watching
We
you.
don't want train smash or train wrecks. They want to train, or they want a train that runs straight and true and doesn't stop. That's why they bred you the way they did. Yes, they do breed you.
Yeah. Question here: how can one be completely emotionally balanced when making when most in the system have split minds? I guess they're talking about DID or whatever from trauma and stuff like that.
I just answered that, actually.
Okay.
They want those ones to break because they break. Ones that don't break are the ones they keep pushing on.
Mm-hmm. Which is why they're going to push so hard.
Right.
Yeah, I like what Joanne's saying. Yeah, consciously maintaining emotional response. Key is on the task only. Like water off a duck's back. You can't touch your emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
My fittest survive. Makes a lot of
Same
sense.
concept in my military training. They don't want loose cannons, they want weapons.
What do they do with the loose cannons?
Throw them overboard.
Sure. Just like that.
Yep. Pretty sad.
Yeah. Hmm. Sure. So yeah, Colleen, it's mental, emotional stability. It's stability on every level. I would imagine it's like a table with 4 legs. You've got to maintain that balance. You've got to be balanced. Can't be wobbling all over the show.
Across the board.
Otherwise,
mental, emotional, spiritual.
And physical.
Right.
Only the 4th leg. The fittest survive. I mean, that's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. So yeah. And that's what I would imagine. I mean, if you look at a lot of these guys that are sort of high up in like politicians or whatever, and yes, yeah, we know that they're puppets and stuff like that. But generally they would have been trained, right? Maybe not in the way that you have. They would have been trained to maintain their cool, calm, and collected demeanor, yeah?
Right. Look at Charlotta. She was used up and discarded.
So that, I mean, then I'm going to ask you the question, and I mean, I don't want to get any kickback from the girls in the chats, but that women are generally more emotional. We are naturally more emotional. That's not a negative thing. I'm not saying it in a negative thing. But then would you say, because women are more emotional, that especially in terms of this, although that can also be a very positive thing, because when you have emotion, you have a lot of intuition, right? So women will generally be more intuitive, right? But would there be generally, in your experience, are there generally more men that are like that are in the upper echelon of this type of stuff? or is there equal amount of men and women?
Or men.
So I mean, let's talk about then the women that were high up. I mean, if you're just looking at people like Hillary Clinton, for example, I mean, she was pretty high up in the system. And then you get like, you know, you forever hearing about these, like the Beyoncés, etc. of the world that are high up in terms of their covens and stuff like that. What do they have to do to maintain equilibrium? It's easier for a guy to maintain equilibrium. I know that, when it comes to being less emotional. What is your experience with that?
I was kind of focused on me, so I didn't spend a lot of time trying to see what they were doing. I was busy watching my back so I didn't get stabbed in it.
Yeah, I would imagine you need to do a lot of that, watching your back, yeah?
Yeah.
Just another question. I'm just looking at some of the questions as we go along. Can they send other people into your life to try and break you? I would imagine that should be in, like, yeah, in your family, friendships, whatever the case might be, yeah?
Think gangstalking.
So you're saying sometimes...
You've heard of gangstalking?
Yeah. So sometimes when they gang stalk you, is it not necessarily because you've done something, but they're testing your ability to maintain
secrets,
equilibrium? Yeah. Wow.
I was sent to gang stalk a few people in my lifetime, so part of my training.
It's to gang stalk.
What?
Was to gang stalk. Are you saying part of your training was to gang stalk?
That was part of it, yeah.
So can I ask you what you guys had to do? Was that a squeak? No, don't squeak me.
Honk. Honk you.
Stop. Stop. Wow, this is insane. I mean, it's just like really, yeah, everything. I mean, and how do you, and how can you tell if someone has been sent?
You'll know.
I think we hear about that a lot. They'll often come in very subtly. They'll come into your house and they'll just change something around. And not necessarily violent in the beginning, but they'll move stuff around and you'll know that someone's been in there, right?
Right.
And then they start instilling fear, I would imagine.
You'll know.
Yes, Dottie, it certainly does. Please explain the frequencies they use and how to keep from being affected. I don't know, can you answer that?
Not easily, no.
Well, I'm going to say with that, obviously, they know exactly. I mean, because when you're dealing with the Raphael and the fallen angels who know exactly about sound, frequency, and vibration, they know the human body and the frequency we use, and then they'll know exactly how to counteract that and instill fear. Would you agree with that?
You're surrounded by that all the time. So
yeah.
Stay vigilant. Pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay, I want to just see if there's anything else in terms of conjuring that I had. Yeah, something together. What is the difference between a sorcerer? Because I would imagine that with this, there's a lot of sorcery, right? And wizardry and magicians and stuff like that. So what is the difference between a sorcerer, a magician, a mage, and a wizard? Can you give us those? Can you help us understand more about that?
The sorcerer is like an anesthesiologist. A wizard is like a dentist. Magician is like a general practitioner.
What did you say about a sorcerer? I missed that.
Anesthesiologist.
So they all have their own, it's like a unique, each one is just kind of trained in one area. Is that what you're saying?
Except for magicians, they're trained in every area.
Is a magician and a mage the same thing?
Yes, I said that before.
Okay, just checking. Okay. So basically a magician has done, or mage has done all their training. They need no enhancement. It's a natural gift that they have. But maybe a sorcerer or a wizard is more trained in one area and not adept in all of the areas as a mage is. Right.
It's like a witch.
Yeah.
They pick one line to study and they go with that.
So you kind of know how to deal with them. So let's say I wanted to conjure up a fireball because I wanted to start a fire, let's say, or I'm mad at someone. There was a series on TV a couple of years back. What was that, about the three sisters who were witches? And they would like shoot fireballs out of their hands. And I'm using kind of like a basic term here. So how would that be then? How would I conjure that up? I mean, I'm not asking you to tell us the process, but can you maybe give us more understanding on how that actually works? Again, do you have to know who you're getting it from? Or is some... Mm-hmm.
Of course. They'll come to you with a proposal.
Right. Okay. So they're watching you. They know what you want. They're obviously reading your thoughts, reading your energy all the time, especially if you are watched.
Your behavior.
Right. And they'll come to you and they'll ask you, or as you say, they'll come to you with a proposal. And I'm sure they'll make it so delightful, right, that you find it difficult to say no. Very tempting, right? Very tempting. Yeah.
Exactly. It's kind of the point for them anyway.
Crazy. So now I can understand when you were talking right in the beginning, when you were talking about gems and soul gems and stuff like that, why it would be important to have soul gems, not just for your personal battery, but to trade with as well. So are you saying there's a whole world out there or in there or wherever it is? How would you describe that? In there, out there, around, that we don't see, right? And that you can trade with, right? Make deals with.
Right. Soul trade.
So what are the types of trading one can do? Give us a few examples that trading that one does. How can you do business with the elementals or whatever it might be? So yeah, what's Janine says, yeah, spiritual marketplace. Explain to us what that could be about. Give us a little bit of an idea.
It's such a broad word for explanation. It's like asking me to describe a grain of sand on a beach.
little one?
Well, like I said, that apple you conjured, the money, depends on what you want to pay for it. You're going to pay something.
So you can really get anything.
Either you will or somebody else will, yes, depending on what you want to pay for.
So a lot of what we're actually seeing out there would be illusion. I mean, we spoke about illusion magic the other day. I mean, let's talk about pulling a rabbit out the hat, for example, like we would see as stage magic. Would that be conjuring or would that be illusion?
Illusion.
But that's a real rabbit.
Right.
Where did that rabbit come from?
Hidden in the hat.
Even though the hat's this small.
Right.
I can tell I'm not going to get anything more out of you with that, right? Wow. You said something earlier about aptitude being like unmarked gifts. Can you explain that? Like having aptitude for this is like having a whole lot of unmarked gifts. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit?
Not unmarked, natural gifts. Something you're just born with. Like being naturally strong or naturally musically inclined, mechanically inclined, that kind of thing. That's aptitude. You have to have intelligence too, pretty high intelligence.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I would imagine that people who go into this area aren't very emotionally intelligent, though, right? Because if you are emotionally intelligent, sorry,
unless they were brought up that way.
But if you're emotionally intelligent, you would understand that that's not really.
Okay, let me correct that. Unless you were trained that way.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but to be trained to be emotionally intelligent does not mean you are naturally that way. Because I think if you are naturally emotionally intelligent, you're not going to do stuff like that. You would understand that there is a price to pay for these things. So the way
here's something I've always been called is an old soul. Always had a pretty good balance. The anger they cultivated in me was on purpose. It wasn't just me being angry. It had a purpose to it. But other than that, I've always been pretty balanced. Until damaged.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that, and I'm sure that that's probably also why in the system. I know that's probably not always the right word to use. I just don't know another word to use.
In the arcane.
In the arcane, right? There's a lot of abuse that goes on imposed upon children, because that would obviously make them extremely angry as well. So they would weaponize that. I mean, I think there's always a time as a human being where we all get angry sometimes. There's righteous anger, right? And there's just wrongful anger where you would use your anger to completely destroy anything and everything in your midst if you have no control over your rage, right? So I would definitely, I mean, if when you say yes, they did things that deliberately made you angry. So they were able to use your anger, but they would have also, but isn't that really with people who are super intelligent that they can do that with, right? Because it's almost like your intelligence, because you're so intelligent, you'd get even more angry because you would feel that injustice, right? Do you agree with that? Am I on the right track there?
Yes.
So it's like the more intelligent you are, the more sense of injustice you feel.
Correct.
And yeah, I'm just also reading some of the comments here, what Linda was saying, breaking your temper. So I could imagine that yeah, they could break your temper. And what Joanne is saying is abuse to create no more emotional response. So you can become just like a flat balloon type thing. And anger opens up doors for spirits. Yes, absolutely. That would make sense though as well. When there's that anger, you open up the doors for these negative entities to take over the body. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they harness your anger and focus and direct it. So that would make perfect sense as well. Yeah, conditioned makes a lot of sense. Wow. So I would say it's quite a journey to come back after that, though.
Well, it's just like the Star Wars thing. They hurt you to give you a focus. Blame it on God, and they want you to do their dirty work for them.
Right. And what Joanne's saying as well, if you have no response, they can take over you. Makes perfect sense as well. That whole Star Wars thing is also interesting because obviously when you're looking at that situation, and I know after the wild hunt that you were in, it was like literally, okay, well now you can go and get her back, but this is what you have to do. And then they create a lot of anger in you so that you can turn on God and you can kind of like delude yourself into thinking that you can overthrow God, so to speak, right?
Gives you the wrong focus.
Exactly. And it's like this never, and that's what gives you, it wants you to have that power, right? So you would definitely want that power, become power hungry. And that's what gives you that addiction, the addiction for more power, for more, whatever the case might be. Wow. Makes a lot of sense. Crazy. Anyway. Okay, I don't think I have any more questions in terms of conjuring. I'm not sure if there's anything that you still have to share.
Well, this all ties together at some point. Like I said, it's not just step one, we're studying it. It's a whole bunch of things working together. As we go along, you start to see that more and more.
Yeah.
The music side of it is really, really interesting.
What do you mean by that?
How it works.
Yeah, we got to get there.
There's a picture I asked you to take out.
Let me just find it here quickly. The conjuring one, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just find it here. It is here. There we go. So that's the symbol for it. Can you, explain that to us?
Again, the spinning cube in the middle. You can see it. not going to explain everything here, but I just want you to see the type of symbology that they use. Rune magic.
Are the 5 balls on the outskirts, is that the rune magic you're talking about?
The whole thing is rune magic.
Okay. So like when you conjuring things up, do you use that symbol to conjure them up?
No.
Okay. And see the thing there in the middle. Yeah. I'm just looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 like points in the outer circle. What does that symbolize?
Which outer circle are you talking about?
10, sorry. In the outer circle. Those little points looking like the rays of the sun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Is there anything specific about the number 10? Yeah.
I'm going to have to squeak.
Okay. Okay. Well, there we go. So that's
the main thing is I just wanted you to see what that is. It's not a simple symbol. It's complicated. It is involved. They believe in it 100%.
Oh, clearly it works.
Right.
Is there any significance to the color green?
There is, but again, I have to squeak.
Okay.
We'll revisit this stuff later, so.
Yeah. All good. Okay. I'm just looking here. If there's anything. There's a stage magician entertainment using this type of magic also. Interesting. Or does it just use illusion magic?
It's an introduction to it.
Okay.
And it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I get that. Cool. Well, I think on that note, I'm going to bid you farewell as well. I know you've got somewhere to go. Guys, we're doing a gathering with Caleb on Saturday night for the Patreons. I'll put out a flyer, poster, whatever tomorrow. But please, yeah, so just put it in your diary, 6 o'clock my time, which is 10 o'clock Mountain Time, which is an hour earlier than now. So in other words, the same time that I started tonight as well. So we'll do just an open forum. Bring your questions, just bring your stories. If there's anything you want to ask Caleb, we can chat about. We will do that on Saturday night with a Patreon. And again, I wanted to just say to you as well, depending on what comes up, I might post it afterwards or I might not. You know, in the past, there have been quite a few people that have spoken and then they've asked me not to post it because obviously it's sometimes personal stuff that, you know, they don't want thousands of people listening to, which I can understand as well. So for those of you on Patreon, please join us. As I said, and I may or may not post it. Colleen, it's the same time. It's now 7 p.m. my time. So it'll be 6 p.m. my time, the same time that we usually start with Caleb, which is 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And then, yeah, we'll just have a gathering and a forum and a chat and what have you. So, yeah. Okay, everybody. Caleb, do you want to lead off for us? Yeah.
Heavenly Father, thank you for another good chat, good talk. Thank you for helping me to start to explain this in a way that makes sense. Ask for protection, wisdom, and grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Always nice to have you guys, yeah? And I wish you a beautiful rest of your day and rest of your evening or whatever. And we shall see you Saturday. But for those of you, I've got Catherine on Telegram. So please join the Aquarius Rising Africa Telegram account. We're going to start maybe just doing a few shows on Telegram as well, because Telegram is one of the cool ones. So it's nice to support a channel that doesn't have an ulterior motive. Thanks so much, guys. God bless you. See you soon.